Picture this, you're alone in a room. No phone. No distractions. Just you and your thoughts for 15 minutes. Sounds peaceful, right? Here's what actually happened when scientists tested this. 67% of men and 25% of women chose to electrically shock themselves rather than sit there doing nothing. They literally hurt themselves on purpose. And these weren't people strapped to chairs being tortured. They volunteered for this. They said beforehand they'd pay money to avoid getting shocked. Then when left alone with nothing but their minds, they pressed the button anyway. What is it about being alone with our thoughts that's so unbearable we'd rather experience pain? The shocking study I just mentioned came from the University of Virginia, published in the journal Science. Researcher Timothy Wilson didn't expect these results. Nobody did. They brought people into an empty room, took away phones, watches, everything. The only rules: don't leave your chair, don't fall asleep. That's it. Just sit and think for 10 to 20 minutes. Most participants said it was hard to concentrate. Half found it unpleasant or neutral at best. But here's where it gets darker: when given the option to shock themselves, people took it. One person shocked themselves 190 times in 15 minutes. Think about that. Every few seconds, choosing pain over thought. The researchers wondered if maybe college students were just too twitchy, too addicted to their devices. So they tested older adults at home, during times they chose themselves. Same result. Age didn't matter. Experience didn't matter. When the research team investigated meditation experience, they found only a very small correlation with the ability to be alone with thoughts. It barely explained anything. But before you hit that subscribe button, and you should, because what's coming next gets even stranger, we need to understand what's actually happening inside your brain right now. Because the answer isn't what you think. Your brain has what neuroscientists call a default mode network. Right now, as you're watching this, certain parts of your brain are lighting up. But when you're not focused on anything external, that's when the default mode network takes over. It's your brain's autopilot, involving the medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, and several other regions working together. Here's what researchers discovered using brain imaging: when people get bored, something fascinating happens in the frontal areas of the brain. The left frontal region activates when you're trying to engage yourself, searching for stimulation, thinking about other things. The right frontal region, that lights up with negative emotions and anxiety. Scientists at Washington State University had people perform the most boring task they could find, clicking on highlighted pegs on a screen, 320 times, for 10 minutes straight. They measured brain waves throughout. People who normally cope well with boredom showed a leftward shift in brain activity as the task dragged on. They were actively looking for ways to engage their minds. But people who struggle with boredom, their brains shifted right. More anxiety. More negative emotions. More discomfort. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn that changes everything we thought we knew about thinking. Remember when I said the default mode network is your brain's autopilot? Well, it's not a peaceful cruise control. Studies show that when this network activates, you're not just peacefully contemplating life. You're time traveling. You're thinking about the past, often with regret. You're anxious about the future. You're judging yourself. Creating narratives. Half of our waking thoughts are spent somewhere other than the present moment. Here's the cruel irony: the same default mode network that causes this mental chaos is also responsible for creativity, problem-solving, and self-reflection. It's not all bad. Research shows that the brain's insula, a region that detects whether information is important, actually deactivates during boring tasks. Your brain tries to engage with the dull material and simply fails. It's not that you're weak or undisciplined. Your brain is literally designed to seek stimulation and meaning. And loneliness makes it worse. Brain scans of lonely people show significantly higher default mode network activity. They spend more time in their heads, ruminating about the past and worrying about the future. The more you avoid being alone with your thoughts, the harder it becomes. If you're still watching, and honestly, thank you for giving this your attention when your brain is probably screaming for distraction right now, make sure you like this video. Because what I'm about to tell you explains why everything from meditation to nature walks actually works. Psychologist Peter Endicott describes boredom as a motivation alarm. It's your brain saying, something needs to change. When people are bored, both the amygdala, governing negative emotions, and the prefrontal cortex, handling decision-making, activate simultaneously. You feel bad, and your brain demands you do something about it. But here's what actually helps. Researchers gave people boring tasks, then measured their creativity afterward. One group copied numbers from a phone book. Another group recited those numbers out loud, supposedly more boring. The second group came up with significantly more creative uses for paper cups afterward. Earrings. Instruments. Even a Madonna-style bra. Boredom, when you don't flee from it, can spark imagination. The problem is our relationship with it. We've weaponized our smartphones as anti-boredom devices. 95% of adults found time for leisure activities in surveys, but 83% spent zero time just thinking. Zero. Studies of experienced meditators show something remarkable: their default mode networks quiet down. They're not fighting their thoughts or trying to fill the silence. They've trained their brains to be comfortable with stillness. And their well-being improves: less inflammation, less stress, better mental health. Not because thinking is bad, but because they've learned to direct their thoughts rather than being dragged around by them. So why can't you sit alone with your thoughts? Because your brain is designed to engage with the world, to seek meaning, to avoid threats. Left to wander, it often drifts to negative territory, past regrets, future anxieties, self-criticism. The shocking truth from that University of Virginia study isn't that we're weak. It's that we've never been taught how to be with ourselves. The good news? Every time you practice, even for a few minutes, you're rewiring those neural pathways. You're teaching your brain that stillness isn't dangerous. That you can observe your thoughts without being consumed by them. Because the alternative? Well, you already know what that looks like. It looks like pressing the button. Again and again and again.